A shadow has fallen over the American experiment. This is not a new shadow, but an old one, lengthened and made darker by the political machinations of our present moment. The democracy that has long been championed, however flawed and incomplete, is now facing a calculated and systematic dismantling. This is not merely an American problem, it is a global crisis. When the pillars of the world's oldest constitutional republic begin to crumble, the tremors are felt in every nation that cherishes freedom, justice, and the fundamental right of a people to govern themselves. The world is watching, not as a spectator to a distant drama, but as a participant whose own fate is tied to the outcome. We must be clear about what is happening. This is not the normal ebb and flow of political tides. This is a deliberate effort to concentrate power in the hands of a few, to silence dissent, and to roll back decades of progress. It is happening under the guise of efficiency and patriotism, but its true purpose is the establishment of an authoritarian state. The tools being used are familiar to students of history: the stoking of division, the scapegoating of minorities, and the creation of an enemy within. This is a playbook written in the ink of old hatreds, one that seeks to turn citizen against citizen and tear at the very fabric of civil society. The danger lies in its methodical execution. It is being carried out not in the darkness of a coup, but in the open, through executive orders and legislative maneuvering. We see it in the reinstatement of Schedule F, a policy designed to purge the federal government of nonpartisan professionals and replace them with loyalists. We see it in the creation of a so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which acts as a wrecking ball against the very institutions meant to serve the public. These are not reforms, they are acts of destruction, aimed at crippling the government's ability to function independently and serve the people, rather than the powerful. This assault extends beyond the halls of government. It targets the very sources of information and knowledge that a healthy democracy relies upon. The defunding of public broadcasting, the attacks on scientific institutions like NOAA, and the investigations into news organizations like NPR and PBS are not incidental. They are strategic moves to control the narrative, to blind the public to the truth, and to create an environment where propaganda can flourish unchallenged. When a government fears its own scientists and journalists, it is a government that has declared war on reality itself. And in that war, we are all potential casualties. To understand the present crisis, we must look to the past. The United States was founded on a paradox, a nation conceived in liberty that was built on the backs of enslaved people. This original sin has never been fully exorcised. The language of racial hierarchy, of domination and subjugation, is woven deep into the American story. From the brutality of the plantation to the codified oppression of Jim Crow, the mechanisms for controlling and exploiting black and brown bodies have been refined and redeployed through generations. What we are witnessing today is not an aberration, it is the resurgence of this dark inheritance, wielded as a political tool. This is the power of the old lie. The lie that tells some people they are inherently superior because of the color of their skin. The lie that blames societal problems not on policy or power, but on the presence and progress of the marginalized. On his first day in office, the current president signed an executive order to end all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This was not a policy debate, it was a signal. It was a declaration that the uncomfortable work of confronting racial injustice was over, and that the old hierarchies were being restored. It was a message to a specific segment of the populace that their grievances were paramount. This weaponization of racial resentment provides cover for a broader power grab. By focusing public anger on immigrants, on black activists, on transgender people, the architects of this new order divert attention from their true agenda. While the nation is encouraged to fear a caravan or a classroom discussion, the federal government is being hollowed out. While we are told to resent our neighbor, protections for clean air and water are being dismantled. The cruelty is the point, but it is also a distraction. The spectacle of oppression serves to mask the systematic theft of power occurring in plain sight, a theft that will ultimately harm everyone. After the Civil War, the dream of Reconstruction was crushed by a violent campaign of white supremacist terror. The promise of a multiracial democracy was betrayed, and a new system of oppression, Jim Crow, was put in its place. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. Today we see a similar backlash. The progress made during the civil rights era and beyond is being deliberately undone. The goal is to return to a time when power was consolidated, when the franchise was limited, and when the voices of the marginalized were silenced. This is not about making America great, it is about making it small and mean and afraid. What was once a theoretical threat is now a lived reality. Project 2025, the detailed blueprint for authoritarian rule, is being implemented piece by piece. Key architects of the plan now occupy the highest levels of government, executing its vision with chilling efficiency. We see this in the newly passed economic package. It was sold to the public with deceptive accounting, promising deficit reduction while independent analysis shows it will explode the national debt by trillions. This is not fiscal responsibility, it is a massive transfer of wealth upwards, paid for by mortgaging the country's future and gutting the programs that ordinary people rely on to survive. The human cost of this agenda is staggering and intentional. The budget bill contains a provision to slash $1 trillion from Medicaid, a move that will devastate communities across the country. This is not an abstract number. It means rural hospitals will close their doors. It means millions of children, elderly citizens, and working families will lose their access to healthcare. The cruelty is compounded by the political cynicism. The full implementation of these cuts is reportedly delayed until after the next election. They will inflict the pain, but only after they have secured their power, hoping the public will not notice until it is too late. The assault is relentless and targets the most vulnerable among us. The administration has moved to end temporary protected status for Haitians and Venezuelans, people who fled violence and instability. It has suspended refugee admissions and poured billions into a militarized immigration apparatus, funding what critics have called a personal Gestapo, and building new detention centers. It has reinstated the ban on transgender people serving their country, and sought to deny gender-affirming care. This is a government that measures its strength not by how many people it helps, but by how many people it can hurt, ostracize, and expel. And where are the voices of the powerful, the corporate leaders, the billionaires? They are largely silent. Many stand to gain from this new order, benefiting from tax cuts and deregulation while the social safety net is shredded. Their silence is complicity. They are watching as the foundations of the society that enabled their success are being dynamited. They are trading the long-term health of the republic for short-term profit. This alliance between authoritarian politics and concentrated capital is not new, but it has rarely been so brazen. The very people with the most influence are choosing to look away as the nation is remade in a more brutal image. This is a moment of truth, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. The struggle for democracy in America is a bellwether for the global fight against authoritarianism. If it can be dismantled here, it can be dismantled anywhere. Nations that believe in human rights, the rule of law, and international cooperation must recognize this threat for what it is: an attack on the very principles that underpin the post-war global order. We cannot afford to be bystanders. The international community must stand in solidarity with the American people who are resisting this slide into darkness. Silence is not an option. The responsibility, however, falls most heavily on us, the people. We of all races, backgrounds, and beliefs who still hold faith in the democratic ideal must unite. This is not a partisan issue, it is a question of fundamental morality. We must reject the politics of division that seeks to pit us against one another. The fight against racism, the fight for economic justice, the fight for LGBTQ+ rights, and the fight to protect our democratic institutions are not separate struggles. They are one and the same. An injury to one is an injury to all, and our liberation is bound together. We must act. Action means more than just voting, though that is essential. It means organizing in our communities. It means supporting the journalists and civil rights lawyers who are on the front lines. It means speaking out against injustice, even when it is uncomfortable. It means building coalitions across lines of difference, recognizing that our common enemy is not our neighbor, but the ideology of hatred and domination that seeks to consume us all. We must build a movement so powerful that it cannot be ignored, a chorus of voices so loud that it drowns out the lies. This is the challenge of our generation. We are fighting for the soul of a nation, and the future of a world that respects the dignity of every human being. The forces arrayed against us are powerful, but they are not invincible. They thrive on our apathy, our fear, and our division. Our greatest weapon is our solidarity. We must stand together, a united front of ordinary people refusing to surrender our future to an evil, regressive vision. The path ahead is difficult, but we must walk it together. Our democracy and the hope it represents for the world depends on it.